Well, what a series that was. If you're still trying to get your head around all the content and data that we've processed over the last 10 or 11 videos, then hang around, this video is for you. Hey guys, it's Alex here from alexfergus.com, and yes, that's a wrap. We have now finished the 2021 Red Light Therapy Body Panel Comparison Series. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, I've got to come up with a better name. But anyway, yes, all finished. So, yeah, there was a lot to take on board, huh? The feedback's been amazing. Thank you so much for all the likes and questions and support to date. A lot of work. I mean, a ton of work has gone into this series. Not just the filming, but planning, testing, you know, many hours, the editing. And I do want to give a shout out to my team behind the scenes. So thank you guys for all the great work you've done. But anyway, what I want to do in this video is actually go through the data, go through the scores, you know, answer some of those questions that have popped up, and share some of my thoughts and insights that, you know, I didn't really get an opportunity to discuss during the testing process. There are some things that, you know, I want to address. Some comments and questions have come through quite early in the series actually, so I want to touch on them. And I do want to go through and share a summary, overall thoughts on each panel. Plus, I want to share some thoughts I have around what could be improved going forward, is with new red light therapy panels, what to look out for, you know, in the coming years. And if you're still sitting on the sideline and unsure which one to get, you know, maybe this video will help you, you know, finalize which panel you should go ahead and purchase. Finally, what I'll do after this video is a Q&A session. So if there are questions you have, you know, maybe you have a unique situation, you live in a certain country and you don't know what panel to get, or maybe you're still trying to decide between, I don't know, the MitoPRO and the BioMax, or the BioMax 600 versus the BioMax 900, for instance, please leave those questions below, because what I will be doing is going through all of those and recording a Q&A session, right? So I'll be sharing all those answers and feedbacks and my thoughts with you all. So again, any questions you have, they can be broad, they can be specific to your needs, they can be related to, you know, something totally out there or off topic that I haven't touched on yet. Please leave them below, all right? And I will shoot a video to cover all of them. Now, I should have mentioned, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then please go back and check out my 2021 body panel comparison series. That's where I tested 12 panels across all sorts of metrics to determine the overall winner. Now, the winner of that series was the MitoRed MitoPRO 1500. In second place, we had the Platinum LED BioMax 600. That's the new Gen 2 2021 panel. And in third place, we had the Infrared Max 2021 panel. Again, there were 12 panels, so there was a lot of placings. I also did some special awards, which I announced in my previous video, so you can go back and check that out. Okay, so one amendment I have to make to the points and yes, the overall standing of this body panel series was in regards to the GembaRed Reboot. Now, in the first round, in the price round, I have that discount code Alex gives, I think I listed it as 10% off, which is correct, but I did the calculations wrong, and this is because in my notes, my planning notes, I actually had it down as 5% off. So in the series, I awarded the GembaRed, or I scored the GembaRed that the discounted price was $940, but it should have been $890 because, like I said, the discount code is for 10% off, not 5%. So I do apologize to GembaRed, and I do apologize to everyone out there if you know, this has caused any confusion, or you know, maybe you've made decisions based around this faulty data. Again, I apologize. It's a $50 difference. Now, if we actually go back to the first round points, it would have meant that we see that GembaRed placed in fifth place, behind Blue Block's Hive, who are on 4th place. Now, with the correct score, the amended score, GembaRed would have actually placed 4th, and the Blue Block's Hive would have been 5th, which means there was a point difference, right? When we look at the value round, which also factors in price, GembaRed had, based on my incorrect calculations, GembaRed had a score of $21.60 per watt. With the corrected price, the $890 price, the dollar per watt figure, the value figure should have been $20.50. So about $1 difference, right? Dollar improvement. However, and fortunately for the sake of the scoring system, that wouldn't have impacted the overall standings for GembaRed. They still would have scored 11th place behind Blue Block's Hive for the value round. But because of that 1 point extra that GembaRed should have got in the first round, it's meant that overall GembaRed should have placed a little bit better. Sorry, I got to pull up the scores here. So overall, I have GembaRed after 10 rounds, the final score, I had them at 9th place on 54.5 points, right? In 8th place, we had the Reboot Pro on 55 points. Now remember, the GembaRed should have got an extra point, which would have then meant they were on 55.5 points, half a point higher than the Reboot Pro. So GembaRed should have placed 8th overall, the Reboot Pro should have placed 9th overall by half a point. You know, super tight space. Now Blue Block's Hive would have actually got 1 point less, so they would have got 43.5, but that wouldn't have changed anything. They ended up in last place anyway. So again, I do apologize. Hey, it's always it was bound to happen. I've got 12 different panels. I've got tons of data. It's been a crazy few weeks. You know, I'm talking some nights I didn't finish filming till like 10 o'clock at night. You know, big days. What I'm going to do is I'm going to update the blog with all this information. Obviously I can't go back and change the video rounds. Once they're on YouTube, you can't edit them. So we just have to live with it. The other thing is I know that some prices for some of these panels have already changed since I put content out. You know, like I said, this panel's worth this much, and then someone said, hey, like for my country it's actually more expensive. The other issue is some companies price in their local currency. So Blue Blocks, they price in Australian dollars. I had to do a currency conversion to convert everything to USD, right? The currency exchange rates have already changed since I did those numbers. So technically, probably all of the data in the pricing round needs updating, and that's going to happen every few days, right? Because the way exchange rates work. Now, one of the biggest questions I got was why I used the BioMax 600 instead of the 900. Now, this is a very good question, and I did touch on it during the series, but I want to clarify it again now. So pretty much in 2019, I included the BioMax 600 in my 2019 comparison series. That panel went on to win the round, or win the series, all right? It came out as the best overall panel. At that time, I hadn't used or tested the 900. It was later on where I did receive the 900, and I thought, you know what, this is the better panel. In fact, I did a blog and a video on that exact topic saying, hey, look, you know, the BioMax 600 is great, but the 900 is better. And the reason why is it's a wider panel, so you've got a larger treatment area. So going into this 2021 series, I was tossing up, you know, do I use the 600 again or the 900? Now, I was leaning towards the 900 because of the reasons I just gave you, you know, about the 2019 panel. And I know there's a lot of interest in the 900, right? People want to know how the 900 compared to the 1500 from MitoPRO, for instance, because they're larger panels, the 300 LED panels. But two things changed my mind, and as you all know, I went with the 600. Firstly, what I discovered was the 900, the LEDs didn't put out as much power as the LEDs in the 600. The 600 is a more powerful panel. Now that was quite surprising because most people just assumed that they'd use the same technology, same power output across the new 2021 BioMax range, right? And that's what I assumed. But it was my testing that I realized, hey, that wasn't the case. And then also speaking to Platinum LED, and they said, yeah, due to some you know, heat issues, I think it was, they had to ease up some of the power in the 900. And I was like, wow, that's, you know, that really changes things, doesn't it? Because if people are wanting, you know, people know the Platinum LED panels to be like super high powered, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, well, the 600 has more power than the 900. So that's interesting. And the second thing was, I figured, hey, you know what? The BioMax 600 won the 2019 series, right? So, you know, we should give it an opportunity to defend its title. You know, like it was a good panel back then. It's been improved. It should do really well. And then a few other things came into my mind. I thought, because I only use one panel from each company, right? I like body panels being around that $1,000 price point, right? And that's what I've always sort of, you know, suggested was a good price when you're buying a red light therapy body panel. Now, we knew well, I think there's about 6 or 7 panels that were under that $1,000 mark in this lineup, and I knew the MitoPRO, the MitoRed MitoPRO with the big, you know, 300 LED panel was a little bit more expensive, not by much, but it was slightly over the 1,000. And I thought, you know what? it would be good to have the BioMax in there sub 1,000, because the BioMax 600 is well under the $1,000 mark, especially after you use discount code Alex. So that will be interesting. You know, you'll see the best of both worlds, the more expensive panel and then the slightly cheaper panel. And then, yeah, I mean, I thought as well, because this series looks at power, but also price. I mean, it looks at so many metrics, right? So I actually think if I did a head-to-head between the 600, BioMax 600 and the BioMax 900, that the 600 would perform better in this series because of the much lower price point, right? And the fact that it's got higher power radiance. So I came to the conclusion that the BioMax 600 was a better panel and thus was better suited to the body panel comparison. Now, for those of you who were looking at buying the 900 and wanted to see how it performed, yeah, I'm sorry that you know, you still don't have those answers. What I can say is this: I will be doing a direct BioMax 600 versus 900 comparison, so be sure to subscribe to check out them. It probably won't go live until next year, 2022. And I'll score them based on the scoring system to see who comes out as the better panel. So that will be interesting. But like I said, I think the 600 will be the better panel. And I'll also do a BioMax 900 versus MitoPRO 1500 direct comparison as well. But based on the data we've seen, I think that the 1500 is the better panel out of those two. And again, if just go back and watch my full series on that. All right, next up I want to talk about the Joovv Solo 3.0. Now, Joovv came in at 7th place, mid-pack, which, to be honest, I think is a fair position, because yes, they are very expensive. I think they were the second most expensive panel in the whole series. You get some amazing bells and whistles, you know, some features that other panels don't have, but they really tripped up, you know, on a few things like the EMF round and the sound and flicker round as well, because they were quite noisy. So I think that mid-pack placing is fair. And I actually think my scoring system this time around was a big improvement on my 2019 scoring system. And yeah, I really like this. I think if I had to redo another one in 6 months' time, I'd be using this. Like, I can't see any massive flaws in it. If you can, then please leave your comments below, and I will take that on board for when I do another series. So I think that mid-place ranking was quite fair. Now, Joovv have reached out to me, and they said the EMF, they don't see that as a concern, because you're meant to stand, with their new panels, you're meant to stand 12 inches or 14 inches from the panel. So the EMF doesn't matter. I don't buy that, because most people still may stand closer to the panel anyway. And hey, if you like, all the other panels had really low EMF levels at the 3 and 6 inch mark anyway. So why not just make your EMF panels really low if you can? Because to be honest, Joovv could have made it really low. All I needed to do was add a grounding pin to that power cable and make sure the unit was grounded, and those electric fields would have been rock bottom, right? So, and then because they recommend people standing 12 inches from the panel, which is a long way, you know, it's 2 feet. So I don't know, I've always stood quite close to a panel, so I just find it hard to imagine standing so far from a panel. But anyway, they said because of that, the hotspot isn't an issue, which I mean, I'm not really going to comment on. I'm just comparing all the panels across 6 inches and, you know, trying to see what's the best. And they also say that they've found the sweet spot of power output, and it's not all about, you know, more power being better. And yeah, I guess there's some truth to that, because we have seen studies showing that some health conditions respond to lower powered outputs, but most of them, it's like you need a certain amount of energy, and you know, you may as well apply that energy as fast as you can, right? Rather than spending an hour next to a panel. But I wanted a standard testing approach, and I wanted to test all the panels at 6 inches so you can compare all the data, right? So that's my thoughts on Joovv. Honestly, like I've said before in my reviews, I just think they're overpriced for what you're getting, especially with all the taxes and shipping, the high shipping costs as well. But some people will still want to buy a Joovv because they're the big player, and they do have those cool features like the app and all that jazz. So hey, all good. Based on my overall standings though, as you can see, there are panels that I believe are better. As soon as I started filming this video, I discovered that there's new panels coming out, and people are like, oh, you should have included that one instead of this one. And I mean, that's the same for anything in the world of technology, right? You go and buy a new laptop or a new I don't know, phone, and then 2 weeks later there's a brand new one out, and you think, ah. So I had to just make a decision and start filming. So a couple of those panels, new panels, I see BlueBlox have a Super Hive Max. I don't exactly know what's better. I think it's slightly larger. Whether that would have affected its overall standings, I'm not too sure, because they were in last place by quite some distance. So hey, you know, maybe next time around I'll include that one. I'm not too sure. I may try and get that panel and do a review on it, so be sure to subscribe to check that out. Red Rush 720. Now, that was the only panel I reused from my 2019 series, and they've now called that panel, the particular panel I have, the Red Rush 720 Classic. They've also got a 720 Pro. Now, I wish I did have that panel in the series, because I think it would have done a lot better, because that panel has like a built-in timer now and a few other little advanced functions. I'd be interested as well to see if they've improved the EMF, because that panel came in the 720 came in very, very cheap. It was the cheapest panel out of all the panels I tested. So, but it fell short because it didn't have some, you know, basic control features, and the EMF was bad. So it would have been nice to have that in there in the series, but it is what it is. And then finally, GembaRed Reboot. I believe they've finally got their new, they were about to launch a new body panel, but they just couldn't get it in time, so that's why I went ahead with their Reboot. But that would have been nice to have in there as well. So the GembaRed Reboot placed 9th. Would have been interesting to see what their body panel, the new and improved one, will do. So anyway, maybe there'll be something for 2022 or 2023. I also want to address any concerns if you have gone out and purchased, say, a BlueBlox Hive or the Red Rush 720 or a Cyto LED. Like, those panels all placed in the bottom 3 of the 12 panels I tested. Now, if you've gone out and bought them and you've seen the series and you think, oh no, what have I done? Like, I've got a rubbish panel. That is not the case, okay? Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. All of these panels, we know the technology works. We know that red light therapy works, all right? The science is strong, the anecdotal evidence is strong. Yeah, I mean, just go and use it for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and you'll notice the difference, all right? So we know it works. We know 660 nanometers and 850 nanometers are beneficial, and we also know there's other alternative wavelengths also beneficial. So we know that. And all of these panels I tested in 2021 use good wavelengths, and they're putting out good power, all right? So you're getting their therapeutic dosage, all right? These panels today, even the worst performing panels, are actually better than the panels back in 2016, 2017. They're putting out more power, the EMF levels are lower, they have better control features, right? So when I first entered this space, I was using what is now considered a very primal panel without any of these bells and whistles and low power and poor EMF, right? And that's what worked well for me, and it's part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now, because I discovered that, hey, this works really good, right? So I need to dive into it more. So don't feel bad. Don't be like, oh no, I got a lemon, because you haven't, okay? All I'm trying to do is find out which one's the best out of the panels we have out there. And that's why I look at things like, hey, which one has the best warranty period? Which one's the easiest to use? Which one has the best EMF levels, right? So please don't feel bad if you have got one of those panels. And if you were set on buying one of them and you still want to get it, but you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Again, like, it all comes down to your personal needs and goals. Like, if you live in Australia, maybe you want to buy from an Australian company such as BlueBlox, because if there is going to be a return or something, it's easier to do. If you live in some country outside of America or outside of the main, Canada, UK, particular panel, you can get it shipped to your door for free, versus if you went with, say, Joovv or Platinum, you might be spending like a couple $100. Sweet. Factor that into your equation, right? Remember, my scoring system was trying to be as broad and as general as possible. Like, if I was doing the best panel for Australians, the outcome would be totally different. You know what I mean? So you've got to take all this data into your equation. Maybe you already have a panel from, say, BlueBlox, right? Or maybe you already have a Joovv Solo. You already have a Joovv Solo and you're planning on getting another one, and you want to stack them together. So it might make more sense to buy a Joovv because you can connect them all together, right? Things like that, okay? So just remember that, all right? It's not like I'm saying, hey, anything other than the MitoPRO is bad, because that's not the case. I have Platinum LED, the original Platinum LEDs, set up in my office. And I've also got a Joovv set there as well, set up in my corner arrangement. And even though I've got all these new panels and I've done all this testing, I haven't quickly gone out and thrown out those other panels and replaced them with the new and improved MitoPROs. Like, because I know the panels work, right? So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that sort of appeases any concerns that some people may have had on I've got a blue blocks or something. All right, now we're gonna look at the standings, and I'm just gonna share some of my thoughts on where some panels may have tripped up and could have done a lot better, and just some feedback on the scoring system. So, all right, so we'll bring up the overall standings and I'll run through my feedback. So first up, working from the top, so MitoPRO 1500, they cleared the BioMax by 5 points. It was a convincing win in the end. The main difference now, if you're watching the series as I played it out, they were neck and neck. The BioMax and the MitoPRO, I think like halfway through they were on exactly the same points. It was crazy. I was like, man, I knew they were going to be close, but not that close. And it wasn't until that hotspot round where all of a sudden the MitoPRO jumped ahead. Now, that was the first time I've included that round. If you haven't seen that video, that was round 8. Go back and watch it because I do quite a lengthy introduction and explain why I included this and why I think it's important. But that's where BioMax lost it. I mean, that was the decider, I guess, because after that in the operation round and everything else, there was only a few points separating the two panels. So BioMax just couldn't make up the extra, 7.5 points they lost. When you look at the MitoPRO across the board though, I've got all the scores here. The lowest score they had, remember this is out of 12, was 4, and that was the price because they were a larger panel and they were a little bit more expensive. After that though, they were smashing it. They won the power round, they won the value round, they won the EMF round, they were second in the LED rounds. All of a sudden they went skyrocketing to the top. And yeah, consistently, they were just up there, thirds and second places across the board, which is why they came out on top, right? When we look at the BioMax, again, they actually didn't win any of the rounds. We've got second places, third places, second places, good consistency, but no wins, no overall wins, which is quite surprising. But it just shows you don't need to be the best at everything. You just need to be consistently up there, right, to place well. But again, you look at all their scores in the 10s, 11s, 8s, and then all of a sudden 2.5 for the hotspot because they have such a pronounced. It's so clear, like anyone that looks at the BioMax and uses it, you can see those different colors. You can see where there's some brightness and big drop-offs. So that if I was running Platinum, that's something that I would be addressing big time for any third generation panels. Infrared Max in third place, yeah, so they were the surprise, all right? And I'm very impressed with their panel. I didn't really know much about it. I knew about the company because their name pops up all the time in emails and questions and comments. But yeah, and I had their panel here for a while and I actually forgot all about it until I got them all out to review the series. And I thought, oh, that's right, I've been meaning to test that. So I really do want to congratulate them because it's a third place. They've got a great panel. They've done well. When I look at the scores here, their lowest score was 3 and that was in the LED round. And that was just simply because they didn't have the multi-wave technology. If they'd utilized a few more wavelengths in their panel, and it got them, let's say 8 points there or 10 points, they would have outranked BioMax and they would have been pushing the MitoPRO for top spot, which is quite amazing, right? So Infrared Max, very, very good panel and I'm very impressed and I think they're gonna do well in the coming years. And then we drop back to 4th. And we have the Solbasium Optics 180. Now, I have to say, I feel a little bit bad because I was overly critical of this panel when I did my full review. Maybe it just got me on a bad day, I'm not too sure. But yeah, as you can see here, 4th out of 12. I mean, this is a brand new company it's a brand new panel, right? And they've outplaced, the Red Light Rising, who've been around for a while, the Joovv, GembaRed, Blue Blocks, Red Rush, they're 4th, right? And again, like, they've done good. There's a few things they slipped up on. EMF being one. It wasn't. We'll talk about EMF soon, actually. What else have we got here? Oh, the hotspot. They had quite a bad hotspot rating as well. So some simple fixes, and I expect to see that panel really do well in future years. And then in 5th place, we have the Lightpath Large Multi-Wave. Now I know there's so much support for this panel. It's crazy. It's got this like cult following, I guess. And when I was publishing these videos, you know, I'd always get comments like, you know, I'm here representing Team Lightpath and stuff. And I knew they were going to do well after I tested that panel because it was so new and unique. And the fact that it's got the frequency pulsing technology and the Nogia technology, you know, some people will buy the Lightpath purely for that feature. And I get it, like that's cool. But I just don't know enough about that technology yet. It's not proven enough, you know, from a science point of view and my own personal feedback, use, and also feedback from others for me to like weight that particular round, you know, more. So you got extra points. But the reason why it's in 5th, despite having that neat technology, was just some of the limitations with the panel. So the controls on the Lightpath are just ridiculous, like do my head in, even after using it for a couple of weeks. They also had a little bit more EMF than some of the other panels, right? So I think what will happen is there'll be a 2nd gen Lightpath panel, fix the control issues, fix some of these other things, and you'll have an exceptionally good panel with all of those cool bells and whistles with the Nogia frequencies and whatnot. When we get into mid-pack, we've got the Red Light Rising Advantage 900. Now, this actually did better than I expected just because of how expensive it is. It's super expensive. The most expensive panel I tested, and that's why I got last place in not only the price round, but also the value round. And that's because the power wasn't as good as I expected for such a high-end panel, because it was, I think it was like 10th place for the power output as well. So pretty much after 3 rounds, you know, they were on 5 points after 3 rounds, which you know, they were never really going to come back from that. So disappointing, I have to say, though. Great warranty, great team behind them. The panel looks nice, so yeah. 7th place we had Joovv. I've already spoken about that, so I won't go on to that anymore. And then we have the Reboot Pro on 8th, GembaRed, Slider LED, Red Rush, and Blue Blocks Hive. I don't want to go into too much detail on all of those because they were the lower ranking panels, but like I said before, they're not bad panels. Out of those panels, if there were any that I would be hesitant to use, it would be the Red Rush 720, and that's purely because of the high electric EMF levels on it. You know, it's not one I'd be saying, here, Mum, or here, Thomas, my 2-3-year-old, you know, go stand next to this for 5-10 minutes because of that high EMF reading. But all the rest, you know, like they work, right? You're going to get good results from it. So, yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see what happens with future generation products, you know, how these companies can improve going forward. So speaking of improving and speaking of future products, what would I like to see when it comes to, say, my 2023 body panel comparison? Well, let's look at warranty and support. I think the standard has to be 3 years for a warranty. I mean, Red Light Rising came out with a 5-year, which is exceptional, but we're still seeing panels that only have 1-year warranty, and I think that needs to be improved. EMF, again, you just have to get safe EMF levels at 6 inches, even 3 inches now. That's going to be the big challenge, getting those magnetic 3-inch readings down really rock bottom, because that's going to be very tough from an engineering point of view. But I think the top panels will do that, and that's what we'll see in a couple of years' time. Panels that have poor control panels, there's no reason they can't improve them. I mean, you just need to watch this series or just purchase a couple of these panels that do have nice control panels and just implement the same designs. I mean, it's simple stuff, really. So you know, Lightpath LED, who else had poor control panels here? GembaRed Reboot, well, they just have one switch. You know, you need to have a timer function. You need to have the ability to select between wavelengths. You know, these things are just, you just need them now. So we'll see more of that. I do like the fact that, you know, the Platinum LED, you have the control panel, the touchscreen control panel. That's kind of nice. Do companies need to incorporate, you know, the apps and all that? Personally, I'm not a fan of that with red light therapy. I'd rather have it all on the control there. I think it's a bit gimmicky. You know, you sure with the Joovv you can track how many sessions and all that. No, that could be cool if you're a coach and you want to track your clients or your trainees, you know, how many times they're using it. But hey, you can very easily just use a notepad or something anyway. So do I expect all the companies to go down that path? I don't think so, because we actually saw some companies like Red Therapy had an app and stuff early on, but had never really, like, it's not like ever the market like flocked to that because of that potential app. So I think a lot of money would have went into some of these apps, and whether they get the return, I don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised if you just start seeing some more user-friendly control systems like the BioMax has, but you don't really need to get too fancy there, because you know, the MitoPRO 1500 does everything you need. It's got a nice little screen. You can set the timer. The buttons are simple to use. Like really, that's all you do need. Flicker, again, there should be no reason why any panel has flicker going forward. And sound as well. It would be good to get the decibel readings down around that 50, and any sort of irritating sounds that, for instance, the Joovv had, you know, have them addressed going forward. And then when we look at power and price, well, power, I know what's going to happen. Companies are going to keep pushing for more and more and more, right? Because they want to be known as the most powerful panel. I get that. We may be well past the point of like, hey, look, this is just excessive now. We don't need that. And it may get to a point where it's actually dangerous. You know, maybe the power levels are so high that there's risk of burns or, you know, too much red light. I don't know. It's quite a controversial topic. But I know what will happen. Companies will keep pushing that out. But what's interesting though, you've got panels like the Joovv and the BioMax now, where you can lower the power threshold. So that's kind of cool, right? If a company is going to put out some massive power figures, some people might be turned off with that. But if you can go in and drop that to 50% and do a longer session, that's kind of cool. And in fact, I like that idea because I may want to set up a red light therapy panel on my squat rack, right? So when I'm training, you know, I can just have it running there. I don't want that at full power because I might be in front of that panel for an hour or, you know, 45 minutes or something. If I can just drop it down and get that slow dose throughout, I actually think that's quite a neat concept. So I think that's what will happen. The companies that will do really high power should incorporate, you know, even if it's just a button, like 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% power outputs, right? Simple. Yeah, price-wise, price is going to be very, very interesting because we live in unique times, supply chain issues, chip shortages, which is part of the reason why this video was so delayed, right? Because companies couldn't get their new panels out in time. We just have inflation, you know, worldwide inflation running rampant. So I know I always talk about that $1,000 price point. It's going to be interesting to see if that starts just creeping up. And obviously, you know, that's just how the world is. But at the same time, you would like to see some costs coming down, you know, like from technology advancements, you know, maybe the LED prices come down and stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen with the price, all right? We could see that, yeah, the new norm is $1,500 instead of $1,000 for a body panel. But we could also see that it stays the same. Whether it gets cheaper, I'd be very surprised if panels start getting cheaper just because of the reasons I just mentioned. But, you know, time will tell, I guess. Finally, we have the everything else round. And yeah, this will be cool. This is where there can be some really good innovation, and I can't predict what will happen. You know, someone will come up with an amazing idea. They'll introduce that feature or that add-on or that new design, and it will be like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? So one example is Joovv and Platinum LED have handholds in the back and on the side of the panels, and that's awesome. Like, you may not, if you just buy a panel, set it up on the wall and leave it there for 2 years, it's not really going to matter, right? But if you're moving it around, or even if you're not quite as strong and you've got a big, you know, 25-pound panel, having those handholds helps big time. So I think things like that will just become the standard, right? So there'll be some game-changing features or design changes that will really jump out, and that's what I'm excited to see. Pulsing technology is obviously another good example. So we have the Joovv and LightPath LED panel using the pulsing. So that could just blow up and take off. You know, there might be some studies that come out that showing, hey, look, pulsed 850 nanometer light for 10 minutes has, you know, 20 times better recovery than just standard static light. I don't know, but imagine if something like that did, and then all of a sudden all these reviews are just like, holy, oh my God, like I can train 3 times harder and bounce back so much better. I mean, something like that will happen and it will just totally change the space. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I would like to see some changes because the panels are all kind of the same, right? I don't know what will happen. You know, maybe there'll be wider panels, or I don't know, shaped for your body or designed specifically for different treatments. Like maybe they'll have options where LightPath LED do this, right? Where they have more near infrared, like I think 810 LEDs in the top third. So you're getting more of the 810 on the brain, which is where it's most effective. Like maybe you'll be able to say, all right, there'll be a button for recovery, or button for performance, or button for skin health. And it'll change the output based on, you know, the program you've selected. So maybe, you know, like more energy will go to the 810 near infrared light and less will go to the red light, for instance. Or maybe if they're using dual chip or even maybe triple chip LEDs, that the whole spectrum will change. You know, you'll hit skin health and then all the power goes to the red light and, you know, at a certain intensity, and then you hit, you know, like muscle recovery and you get some pulsing going on and you get more near infrared, you know, like pre-built sort of things. I actually, now that I talk about it, I think that would be a nice addition, because it's a question I get all the time. How should I use it for this particular goal and this particular treatment? And I know some panels out there have some good information. Who had the really good one? Was it Infrared that had that really nice manual, you know, saying use this wavelengths and this time for these treatments. Light path LED do the same with their nausea frequencies, right? But imagine having that all built in where you're just like, all right, today is just a general health. Click that button, the machine takes over, the timer starts for 5-10 minutes, whatever it is. Maybe it even tells you stand, you know, 3 inches from the panel, stand 6 inches from the panel, and then after 5 minutes it beeps and says, please turn around and do the other side. You know, things like that. That's what I think should happen going forward now, making it more user-friendly for the end user. Because originally a lot of these panels were targeted more for like the biohackers, right? Like people that were really obsessed with this stuff. And I say we because I consider myself a biohacker. We geeked out on this stuff, right? Like we'd read the studies and we'd experiment and we'd quantify our like sleep and HRV with our Oura rings and all that jazz. But now it's hit mass market, you know, mainstream. So, you know, my mum uses red light therapy, right? But she doesn't do all this stuff. She just says, hey, how long should I use it? Because she knows how much it helps her and stuff, right? So, and you're seeing that now with Joovv as well. Like they're focusing more on, you know, sports teams and Victoria's Secret and models and all this sort of jazz, right? You're not seeing them go after the first adopters like the biohackers and stuff. So I think that's what will happen and should happen, where it's just, you've got your panel there, you push a button and it's all done for you, and there's a little voice or a little screen saying, you know, this is how you're going to use this protocol. 5 minutes, standing 6 inches from the panel. When it beeps, turn around and we'll do 5 minutes. And then maybe it finishes with like a 2 minute, like, I don't know, boost or something. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like there's so many options, but there's no reason why stuff like that cannot be incorporated into the panel, because there's enough science out there now. I mean, it's so easy to do it from a function programming point of view. Just look at BioMax, what they've done with their touchscreen control panel. You've got a, you know, 3-4 inch screen on there. I mean, it could show a little video of how to do it, right? So that would be cool, and that will really separate, you know, the current panels from new generation panels. Like the new generation panels will be like, wow, that's really cool. Everyone will want that, right? Including myself. You know, I don't want to think about it all the time. I just want to be like, all right, I've done a massive gym session. I've got to back it up with another training session tomorrow. Boom, hit recovery, sweet, 20 minutes, away we go. So yeah, there we go. Anyone that incorporates these features, you can send me the royalty payments. No. All right, I think this has been enough of a debrief post-series chat. What I want to do though is answer any of your questions. If you have questions about a particular panel or the difference between two panels, or if you want me to try and determine what panel is best for your specific needs, or if you want to know, hey, look, should you buy a bigger one or a smaller one, please leave those questions below. What I'll do is I'll definitely answer them all in the chat, in the comments below. But what I'll do is I'll take the most common questions and some of the unique questions as well, and I'll sit down, I'll get this camera running again, and I'll answer them on screen. That's my gift to you guys for, you know, being such great followers, subscribers, and you know, for helping me over all the years. So speaking of help, I really do appreciate you guys using discount codes and affiliate links and that as well. I get a little commission whenever you guys use those codes. Yes, it helps you guys as well, but it does help me to spend the time and energy and produce and research these videos, right? So it's a win-win for all of us. I'm very grateful for that, and I'll thank you again. But yeah, I do want to give back in some other ways. So any questions, I'll do my best to get the best answer I can, and I'll put it on screen, and yeah, we will leave it all there. All right, guys, thank you again. Be sure to leave your questions below. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this, and if you haven't seen the full comparison series, go back and check it out from the start, because it was quite an interesting and entertaining ride. All right, guys, bye.